Friends, this is our third hand-holding video on implementation of labor codes, which is expected to see light of day very soon once this COVID-19 situation eases across the country. The government is almost set with its legal infrastructure and IT infrastructure for implementation of labor codes, and very soon we would see an implementation date being notified. Therefore, it is important to understand these labor codes and build them into the organization structure so that once they are implemented, then the business can go on seamlessly and the most important human assets of the organization is well taken care of. In this video, we would discuss on critical issues and aspects of Wage Code 2019. So friends, a very important question which is asked by industry is, since these labor codes are state as well as center, that is they are concurrently subject, which government would they be reporting to as far as the labor codes is concerned? So it leads us to the definition of appropriate government under section 2 clause D of the wage code, whereby it is laid down that for central government entities and PSUs, the appropriate government would be the central government. For those entities wherein the entity is registered in one state, the appropriate government would be the state government. However, for those entities, it is understood which is registered in multiple states, the appropriate government wherein they have to report compliance to would be the central government. Another important issue currently in the erstwhile regime, that is the current existing regime, is the definition of workman. Well, in many cases, we have seen in our own recent case which has been handled, it is seen that one of the purchase managers had approached the court contending that he who is signing on various purchase orders worth crores of rupees, he is contending that he is a workman. So therefore, now there are two definitions which it is proposed that would lay to rest these kind of disputes. Definition of employees under section 2 clause K and definition of worker under section 2 clause Z. So the definition of employees under 2K, it states that the employee can be any person other than an apprentice who can do skilled, semi-skilled, unskilled work, who can be a supervisor, he can do clerical jobs, or he can also do managerial and administrative or supervisory job. However, in case of the definition of worker, a person who is a manager or an administrator doing such managerial or administrative job cannot be contended to be a worker, right? He can only be an employee. However, if a supervisor is getting a salary of less than 15,000 rupees, only then such supervisor also can be called a worker. If a supervisor can be getting a salary of more than 15,000 rupees, even then the supervisor also would not be termed to be a worker, he would also be termed as an employee. Therefore, there is a clear distinction between an employee and a worker. The distinctions are three. An employee or a worker cannot do managerial or administrative job. A supervisor can be a worker if he is getting a salary of less than rupees 15,000 also, right? We have already discussed in our first video the definition of wages under section 2 clause Y, wherein wages has an inclusive part, that is the basic and dearness allowance. It excludes the various allowances like HRA, like various deductions for provident fund, interest, various deductions on accounts of various rewards, overtime, payments, commissions, etc. It has an additional part of gratuity and retrenchment payment. In case payment is made to an employee in kind to the extent of 15% of the payment in kind can be considered to be as wages. Important is section 18 subsection 3, whereby it is provided that deductions from these wages cannot be more than 50% of the total wages in a month. So various deductions happen on account of provident fund, on account of repayment of a loan taken from by an employee, and other deductions happen. They cannot be more than 50% of the total wages. Well, the definition of employer for all purposes in the Act have been widened so as to include any person who is the owner of the business, including a managing director, right? So even if the manager of a factory is not traceable, the managing director would be termed to be as an employer. Well, again, another important point to be noted is that even after deceasement of the employer, in case of sole proprietorship firms, the legal representatives of such a person would be considered to be as an employer, and such legal representatives under section 43 would be required to devolve the payment to the employees. Important provisions under section 6 read with section 9 is that the central government would fix the floor wages, which would be the minimum wages, and the state government could only increase such floor wages as minimum wages. They cannot reduce such amounts notified as floor wages by the central government. Overtime rate of wages under section 14 and section 13 would be double the normal wage rate, and the payment of all wages including overtime wages in case of monthly payment would have to be made before 7th of the next month. In the current regime, for certain categories of employees, it can be made till the 10th of the next month. Important again is that I don't know how it will be possible to implement this, but it has been held under section 17 of the wage code that in case any employee is dismissed or is removed or is retrenched, then the payment for such an employee has to be made within 2 working days. Well, how that would be implemented is a question to be asked. A very important provision is seen under section 51, wherein an inspector cum facilitator would be notified for each establishment. The inspector cum facilitator would advise the employer as well as the workers, right? The inspector cum facilitator notified under section 51 would also be empowered under Indian Penal Code to inspect, require submission of documents, examine people, and do or conduct searches and seizures. So wide powers have been given to this inspector cum facilitator. Well, it is to be seen whether such powers are utilized prudently by the labor commissioners and their inspectors. If they are utilized aggressively against the employer, this could lead to a lot of litigations which certainly would not lead to ease of doing business. Penalties have been increased manifold for each non-compliance. I am repeating, for each non-compliance with any provision of this code, there is a penalty of 20,000 rupees, and for second non-compliance it's 40,000 rupees. For each payment which is not made as per the wage code to the employee, there is a penalty of 50,000 rupees for the first non-compliance and 1 lakh rupees for the next set of non-compliance, including certain provisions which are not very large, but still prosecutions are there. However, the provisions relating to compounding are also there, but mind that penalties are very huge, and therefore it is important that this wage code is implemented in the right spirit and each provision of the law is taken care of in detail. Well, certain registers, records and returns need to be maintained. The employees register need to be maintained. The notified inspector cum facilitator under section 51, his name and details have to be put on the notice board. The pay slips or the wage slips needs to be provided to all employees and workers, and in case there is a dispute in the payment of wages, then the onus lies upon the employer to prove that the payment has been made, and therefore it is recommended that all payments to be made through banking channels. Well friends, as we have seen that there are a lot of changes in this wages code, although they are subsuming 4 laws and a lot of the provisions are in consonance with the 4 laws which they are subsuming currently, but there are various changes including this definition of wages wherein the wage structure needs to be restructured. Therefore, it is important that implementation of this wage code along with other labor codes is done seamlessly, and impact analysis is very important along with training of the key management personnel. The management would also require training on these wages code and other labor codes, the contract with the employees, the returns, the ERP systems would require to be changed, and therefore before the go live date it is important that the organizations are ready with implementation of the labor code. Therefore, it is important to start the implementation on a yesterday basis so that the most important assets of the organization, that is human assets, are well taken care of. Thank you very much.